Hello everyone, what's up and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Today I'm very excited to share a real life strategy presentation with you all. I'm going to be sharing the social media strategy for kind of my school, my education business, the online business launch lab. We just started up social accounts for that website and platform. So I'm going to share the strategy that I put together for this. It started out being kind of a mock strategy, but as I got into it, I was like, I guess this is the real thing. And these are actually real ideas that we probably should try. So if you haven't yet seen my video on how to create a social media strategy, I'll be sure to link that one below in the description and up in the cards. So you can check that out if you want a little bit more detail, but I'm going to walk through kind of a lot of the decisions I made and why I made them in today's video. Okay, so this title page here, I think it's really important to adopt the client's branding if you can. So what I did is I used the OBLL brand fonts for, the title, and also this is also OBLL brand fonts, while keeping my own personal logo here just to add that branded element. It's also nice to add some screenshots or mock-ups of something that they already have or something that you mocked up for them to sort of help them paint the picture of what it is that you're really trying to say. So I just took a quick screenshot of our existing Instagram feed, and then I added their logo up here in the corner. I also will say that I do have a social media strategy template in the social media management toolbox. I'll link that down below as well. It is very bare bones, and that is done with intention. It is done because I don't want people just using a certain template because it looks really cool. I think it's really important to add in your client's branding or your own branding or a little of both, to make it really come to life. So I will link that down below. All right. So the first thing that I go into is goals, just the overall business/social media goals. This is something that's really important to get aligned on. You hear me talk about it all the time. You can't really develop a strategy without understanding what the goals are. Now, ideally, you would have already talked to the client in either a discovery call or you have been working with them for a while already. So these goals should be determined together. These aren't things that I'm just pulling out of the air. So for OBLL, the goals are one, to drive course sales. That's the number one goal, is revenue, right? But number two is to establish OBLL brand authority, which means, to establish that trust with our students and with the overall online business community. I've had courses for years. I've been sort of the face of the courses for years. Okay, I guess my internet glitched right at this exact moment. Ignore my face. But what I was saying is I've had courses personally for years, but OBLL is still a new brand. So we want to really elevate the brand and not just me, the person. And we also want to generate leads for pros in our directory. So the cool thing about the Online Business Launch Lab is once you take either the Online Business Launch Lab Accelerator or the Social Media Management Accelerator, and you complete those with a passing score, you actually get added to a little directory that we created. I only have a certain amount of hours in the day. So this is nice because I can pass off work that I'm not able to take on to those people who have already proven that they know what they're doing. So I also want to make sure that with OBLL, we're generating leads for those people and really building ourselves up as a platform that enables people to, find good freelancers to work with them. Okay, so what I go into here is I go into a little mini audit of the website. Web and social work together. I'm not a web designer or a web strategist or conversion optimization person or anything like that, but I do have to know a little bit. As a social media manager or a social media strategist, we do have to understand web a little, and we need to also make recommendations. We need to do our due diligence to make recommendations for them. So I just give like the top 3 things that they should work on their website. Add social media icons. That's a quick and easy win. There aren't social icons in the header or in the footer of the website. So if we're looking to build those channels, it makes sense to add that. Add GA, Google Analytics, and the Facebook Pixel. Those have not yet been installed in the website, which doing that will enable us to read better analytics, and it will also enable us to retarget people. So if they come look at a course but don't purchase a course, we can send an ad out. Hey, did you forget this? You left this in your cart, that kind of thing. And then I also added maybe consider a blog because we don't really have any SEO content on the website itself. So that will help drive organic traffic through Google. And it will also give us a consistent stream of content that I can then repurpose and use for social. So that's just an example of what I would recommend. I also usually add this thing here, the click for full report. I didn't for this example because there really isn't a lot to audit. It's a brand new website and a brand new social channel. So it's not like we've been making, years of mistakes and have all these, you know, funky things on our website. But what I normally do is I do a full web and a full social audit. So that is just simply like listing out, okay, website, page one, you misspelled business or whatever, or the menu needs to be condensed a little bit. You have like 80 different menu items. And I go through, page by page. And then I also do the same thing for social. I'll say, okay, Facebook, you post once a week. You should be posting at least 3 times a week. Instagram, you're, not posting stories at all, that kind of thing. And I do like a really in-depth audit for clients that already have a presence and have already been doing stuff for a while. Okay, so then I do the same thing for social media. Like I said, didn't do the full report for the same reason, but the posting schedule is the biggest opportunity area. That is, again, a really quick win for OBLL. We're not posting consistently. So I just said increase posting frequency on pillar platforms, which right now are really Instagram, but we'll talk about that later, to a minimum of 3 times per week, as well as 3 times per week on stories. I also said consider adding some new platforms to the mix. We're really only focusing on Instagram right now. So consider repurposing some of that Instagram content onto Facebook. That's a really quick, easy win. Of course, we would want to build out a specific strategy, a strategy specific to Facebook at some point. But for now, a really easy way to just have a presence on the platform is to just repurpose a lot of what we're doing on Instagram. Also, repurpose onto LinkedIn. We'll talk again more about platforms in a second. Brand advocates is also important. So I think that we can leverage user generated content and stories highlights. We've had a lot of people tag us already saying, hey, I just signed up for the Online Business Launch Lab Accelerator, or I love this course, or whatever. And we can easily highlight those things onto our page to help with that brand authority, and also put the focus on courses and alumni. Of course, I am the face of the brand, if you will. I'm the lead instructor. I'm the only instructor right now, really the only full-time instructor. But over time, I really want the brand to be more about you all, more about the students and the awesome things that you all go on to do after you take these courses versus just me, 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 me. That's kind of why I created this. So that's something that we want to lean into as well. And then again, the full report, which doesn't exist. All right. So then I just have mapped out here. Sometimes it's nice for clients to see sort of a visual, especially when you start talking about a platform like Instagram, where there's like highlights, there's stories, there's reels, there's all these different things. And we have to remember that not everybody else is in it like we are. They're not fully immersed in this world. I mean, a lot of my clients just think of an Instagram story means an Instagram post, or an Instagram ad means an Instagram post. So putting things together visually like this has been really helpful for just those top priorities. Like, here's what we're going to focus on this week, like right now. So add new stories, highlights, and update our stories daily. And then I would probably also walk through with my client and explain, here's what a story is. It lasts for 24 hours unless we pin it to one of these highlights here. Create alumni features and highlight course reviews regularly. So that's something we're just not doing. We get new course reviews all the time, and our alumni are always doing really cool things, like I said. So why don't we bring them in for an interview, or, just share a picture of them, or share a screenshot of their website or whatever, just fun things like that. Also, get on a consistent posting schedule, ideally 5 times per week. So we already kind of talked about that. Consistency is an easy win. Okay. Then I just sort of mapped out like what I would envision the highlights to be. So business, that one's okay. I don't know. We could probably remove that, to be honest, because it only happens once a year. And if you don't know, Business is like a Vlogmas challenge that I did. Podcast, so that is still in existence, the Online Business Launch Lab podcast audio series. So that's fine. FAQs, that's good because people, when they have questions about the courses. And then I also recommended adding a courses highlight and an alumni highlight, because we don't actually have like a menu of all the courses that we create, and when they're open, if the door's closed to them, all that kind of stuff, as well as reviews. That's a place where we can put those. And then alumni, I kind of already talked about that, just sharing the cool stuff that our alumni is doing. Then I go into a hashtag library. So I always like to include this, and it does take quite a bit of work. This one, I'll be honest, was actually not fully complete, but I'll show you what it looks like here. This is something I decided actually as I was putting this together too. I'm going to go ahead and add this to the social media management toolbox. Hopefully, it's up by the time this video is up. If not, I'm going to add it this week because I think it's a pretty helpful tool. I just developed this simple Excel sheet or Google sheet. I'll zoom in a little bit. So it's kind of like a matrix. So we use these top three content pillars. We'll talk about content pillars in a little bit in this presentation, but I have all of the three content pillars or the areas of focus that we're going to focus on listed out here under category. And then we have under 100K in volume, 100 to 500K in volume, and 500K to 1 million in volume. And what I mean by volume is if you type these hashtags into the Instagram search bar, you'll see a number that pops up. That means that's how populated those hashtags are. So how many images or pieces of content are housed within that hashtag. Of course, this is specific to Instagram, but you can use this hashtag library for all platforms that you are on. If you have a LinkedIn strategy, you can do the same thing on LinkedIn, etc. So I usually build the library based on Instagram because that's the platform that I think hashtags are the most relevant on. So anywho, I just go in and I try to add 10 different hashtags to each bucket. So it does take some time. And as you can see, it's not done yet. Like for some of these, I just have one. But I started building it out last night just so you could see what it looked like. And the reason I like to add 10 is then you can just kind of mix it up and create your own hashtag sets. So you can say, okay, like I'm going to take one from each of these. I'm going to take one from each of these and just mix it up, so you're having a good variety of larger hashtags, smaller hashtags, more niche hashtags based on pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3. You get the gist. Okay, so then for some of these secondary platforms, I just go in and I list out priorities for those platforms as well. So for LinkedIn, I think we can just start sharing podcast clips onto the OBLL page. We haven't shared anything on that page yet. And it's just kind of silly not to at least just repurpose the video podcast clips. People like that kind of content on LinkedIn, at least what I've seen when I used LinkedIn a lot more regularly. So let's do that. We can also encourage alumni interaction. So I personally, on my personal LinkedIn page, I get tagged pretty often from people who have, finished a course and have their certificate, people who are enrolling in a course. And I love that. And I always make sure that I log in, every day or every couple days and check those and, respond to those folks. And I love seeing them. They make me really happy. But what we can do is we can also encourage them to tag the OBLL account instead of just my personal account. It's just a great way to generate traffic to the OBLL page versus just my own personal profile. And then we can also announce the directory via my own profile. So again, I have quite a bit of connections from, working in the corporate world. I think I have like 3,000 or something like that connections on LinkedIn. And I actually get messages all the time from people I used to work with saying, hey, do you have somebody to recommend for, as a social media manager or whatnot? So I can create a post on my personal profile saying, hey, everyone, if you are looking to hire people, I have this great directory on OBLL, follow the page, and we'll highlight some of our members and things like that. So that's just an easy, quick win. I can just log in. I don't post a ton on LinkedIn these days, but just posting a little update so people know where I am and where they can keep up with me is an easy win. Then same thing for Facebook here. I just have some priorities or some quick wins. First, we can repurpose existing content. Pretty much everything we're posting on Instagram would work on Facebook. So let's just start doing that just to sort of populate the page. And we can also consider creating an alumni-only Facebook group. I think this is a really good opportunity to have some place for all of our alumni to go and network. I do have the Freelance Friday Club, which is a paid group. But for those who maybe just, aren't really ready to invest in something like that or just want to see things come through their feed, I think this is a good opportunity for us. And then we also may want to test an advertising strategy. So right now, I probably total for all my courses over the years, I've spent like $100 in ads ever. So I think there's a lot of opportunity that we can test out with retargeting for those abandoned carts. So people who go to the OBLL, website, look at a course and then decide, nope, not for me. We can retarget them. We can, do a lot of fun things with advertising. At least why not test it out to see if we can really pull the lever on what's already working and selling well. Okay, then we go into our content pillars. So, content pillars are basically the three main areas that you want to focus on with your social media or your content strategy. I don't recommend any more than like two to three main content pillars because then you start to really confuse the audience. So, for this brand, what we're focusing on, and I always like to create like little fun names for them, but I guess you don't have to. You could probably just say freelancing, learning, whatever. But I like to make it a little fun. And again, for the client, when you're presenting this report to them, it just really feels, I don't know, it feels nice. It feels creative if you have some fun little story to tell about it. Okay, so first we're going to focus on being sustainably self-employed. So we're going to provide advice, tips, resources for building online businesses that are in it for the long haul and for the right reasons. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Latasha. I hate get rich quick schemes. I hate scams. I hate all of that stuff. I am all about building an organic first business. Slow and steady wins the race. I have been in it for a while. It is hard, but it is worth it. It is doable if you build those foundations up right. So that's really something that I want to focus on. I don't want to be like, hey, join this course and you'll get rich, in a day. Like that's not how it works. And I don't ever want to mislead people into thinking that that is what our programs offer. Our programs offer you sustainable business advice and tips. Okay, then the second pillar is learn from the best. So we are providing university comparable education from pros who are doing it big. So my idea for, especially for the accelerator programs that I offer, the online business launch lab accelerator and the social media management accelerator, were to offer something. I really modeled them after college courses that I've been in. We meet for a lecture every week. You have homework and assignments and things to work on, and then you have small groups that you work on, collaboration and networking with as well. And I really modeled that after a university level class because I think that's something that's missing in the online education space. I don't want to just offer templates and just, things like that. I want it to be really immersive and high level and challenging because challenge is what helps us grow. And then the last one is at your service. So we want to position OBLL not just as an education hub, but also as a hub for building an online business in other ways, including outsourcing. So if you take an OBLL class and you decide, okay, I'm going to create a course, and you decide, okay, now I need to find somebody to edit these videos for me because that's not, I don't know how to edit. Well, now we have a directory where you can go and find video editors to help you build your online business. If you are, an online bookkeeping service and you need to find a social media manager, we have people who are available to be at your service and provide you those resources. So those are the pillars that we're going to focus on. And then here I just share little samples, either mock-ups or I'll share things that they already have on their pages that kind of demonstrate these different pillars. So sustainably self-employed. Here on the left, we have make it easy to pay you. This is like a little carousel that I created with just three tips on how to make it easy to pay you, right? Use a CMS, invoice on time, things like that. And then over on the right, we have some of our Freelance Friday Club members and course alumni who provided some of their tips on, I think it was pricing tips, because this is something that comes up a lot. How do I price my services? So I said, let me ask some of our alumni what they recommend to not only shine a light on them, but also to, provide that information to help you become sustainably self-employed. And then I'll just list out a couple of content ideas as well. Like we can do some tips and tricks, some tips and advice, kind of carousels with different topics, pricing topics, getting paid, finding clients, like all of these things that we get asked about all the time. Alumni quotes, just like I just showed. And then also savable motivation. I feel like there's a better term I could use for that one. I kind of created this yesterday, so be easy on me if some of this isn't perfect. But yeah, just like creating some posts that make people want to save, make people want to share in their stories of, that, hey, keep going, you got this, business is hard, but you can do this, kind of little motivational tips. I know those really perform quite well. I might even share some examples of what I mean by that. Like I said, maybe either doing a mock-up, or if I was really presenting this to a client, sharing some accounts that are doing this that are kind of what I have in mind, because I know that might not make sense to a client. A lot of you guys watching, that probably will make sense because you are in this space, but for a client, I might have to really give them a screenshot of what I mean. Second pillar is learn from the best. So we have a screenshot or a sample of a podcast interview that we did with Zaylee Barkley. Loved that interview. She's also on YouTube if you want to look her up, by the way. And then on the right, we just have a screenshot of one of my tweets. So we can do podcast snippets. We can do a weekly check in with me, which I think is really important, of either getting on a live every week, getting on stories every week, sharing like a little tip via a Twitter screenshot or something like that, to have that sort of to help with positioning that brand authority. Because again, this is a new brand. So people don't know who Online Business Launch App is, but more people know who I am than they know who Online Business Launch App is, right? So if I can associate myself with that brand and kind of help lead the charge on that until it develops wings of its own, if you will, I think that's really important. And I think this is something, I know it's kind of weird because I'm like talking about myself, but when you're working with a brand, if you can, in most cases, obviously it depends on what type of brand, what type of business it is, but having that CEO or leadership involvement is really important in today's day and age. I think it's quite hard to run a business and not have the CEO have a presence. So I always try to push that to their comfort level, of course, respecting that. But hey, CEO or CMO or whoever is comfortable being on camera, or whoever is comfortable having a Twitter account, I think it's really important that you develop your personal brand alongside the brand. So that's something I also like to mention in this part here. And then course FAQs, previews, reviews, things like that. And then the last one, at your service. So we have here a screenshot of a video review of one of our accelerator courses. And then on the right, we have a picture of me where the caption was me introducing myself. So content ideas for this would be directory highlights. So let's pull a, directory member of the week. That's something really easy that we could start doing like tomorrow. So I'm actually putting that on my list to talk about with my team. Let's start doing that. Alumni interview clips. We have tons of alumni interviews that we do after the courses wrap. So, and they've given us permission to use them as well. So why don't we just share little highlights, little stories of who our alumni are, what they are up to nowadays. I think that's really important to kind of close the loop and share what's possible. And then just growth tips and stories. So maybe like, again, kind of how I shared that example of the course creator, right? You take OBLL, you decide you want to start a course, create a course. Well, now you need a video editor, and then maybe you need a copywriter to help you or whatever. So maybe showing some of those journeys of what teams look like. Because I think sometimes people get really overwhelmed with online business and they're like, I can't do all of this by myself. And it's a lot easier with the teams. So sharing sort of how that stuff is possible. I also made a note in here about leveraging UGC. So I told you about this a little bit earlier. A lot of people tag me. Here's Promise, lovely Promise. She finished her the social media management roadmap, and so she tagged me, which I loved. Thank you for tagging me, and I responded to her. Again, this is something that we could reach out to Promise and ask if we could do a little interview with her, or if we could just, share this onto the OBLL LinkedIn account as opposed to just on my personal LinkedIn profile, and leveraging UGC. So UGC is user generated content. So this is, when somebody's tagging you in an Instagram story, when somebody's tagging you on LinkedIn, things like that, you can use this to your advantage, because I always say, your best customers are your best marketers. So this post alone is doing more for the brand than me just saying, hey, the social media management roadmap is an awesome course. Like, no, hear it from the actual student. So anyway, I like to make a note of that. And then some more ideas that we could use for UGC. We could do some Instagram reel or story takeovers with alumni. So why don't we reach out to some of our alumni who's doing cool stuff and say, hey, do you want to just like share stories for the day and take people behind the scenes in a day of your life to share what you're up to now? A quick win would be to add an Instagram highlight for alumni tags, which I think I mentioned in the highlight section, adding an alumni tag or an alumni highlight. So whenever people tag us saying, hey, I finished the course or whatever, we can add it there. We can also add a call to action for when our students complete a course to tag us on LinkedIn and Instagram. So again, a lot of people tag me personally, which I love. I'm not mad about. Please keep doing it. But we can also add, hey, we have these platforms set up for OBLL as well. Feel free to tag us on there, and maybe we will repost. We can kind of add a call to action that encourages them to do that in that way. And then at the end, I just wrap things up with some next steps. Like, where do we go from here? Okay, we talked about a lot of cool ideas. I got your insight, I got your feedback as I'm talking through this. Now, here's what we need to do to actually make this happen. First thing, we're going to make these quick profile edits. Me and my team, we're going to go ahead and do that today, right now. Those are easy things that we can do, adding the story highlights, little things like that. Step two, I think we can start repurposing content. So we already have a lot of content created. Why don't we just schedule some of that stuff out onto Facebook or LinkedIn where appropriate? And then we can start filling in the gaps with step three, creating new content where we feel like we need to. And maybe we start rolling on that next week with a deployment date of 2 weeks from now, something like that. So yeah, let me close this. Whew. Okay, so I went through that pretty quickly, but really that is the main gist of it. I think it's also important to note that while presenting this report, I would be talking with the client. So I usually schedule these strategy calls for an hour. So I'm actually hearing from them. Some of these ideas are going to be like, "Ooh, no, I don't think our CEO would like to share about the directory on their personal profile." All right, we'll remove that, and maybe we can revisit that in 6 months if you're not into it. Maybe there's something that they really love, or maybe they have a new idea too. It's really important to talk to them, just have a human to human conversation about this stuff because they might have ideas that you didn't even think of. So, yeah, that's the long story short of how a social media strategy call would go and what a social media strategy document would look like. Again, if you want to check out the social media management toolbox, I will go ahead and link that down in the description box. It has a very bare bones basic template that you can customize. You can watch this video back and add some of the different layers to it too if you want to. So I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope it was helpful. Please leave me a thumbs up if it was. And you can also subscribe to my channel. I post videos every Monday and Friday at least, sometimes a little surprise in between. I share everything that I know really about social media strategy, online business ownership, course creation, just my wild life as an independent professional. So why don't you go ahead and join me? And I hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you in my next one. Bye.